This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, January 29th, 2026. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Two officers who allegedly fired their weapons as Minneapolis ICE protester Alex Pretti was killed have been placed on administrative leave. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
A partial government shutdown seems more likely at the end of the week.
We want to end roving patrols.
Ed Donahue, Washington.
A man is under arrest after Democratic U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar was sprayed with an unknown substance. I'm Donna Warder.
A stern warning for Iran.
We have a big flotilla going in that direction.
I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, the Fed held interest rates steady while the S&P 500 index hit 7,000 for the first time. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
FBI agents are executing a search warrant at the Fulton County Elections Office near Atlanta. I'm Haya Panjwani.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Two Border Patrol agents who fired their weapons in the fatal shooting of Minneapolis ICE protester Alex Pretti last Saturday have been put on administrative leave as new video shows Pretti getting into an altercation with ICE officials 11 days prior to his death. With the latest, here's correspondent John Stolnis.
Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison tells a CNN town hall he does not yet know the names of the officers placed on leave.
We have heard some reports that the names might exist in a report form. I haven't heard them yet, and I'm confident that we will get those names. But the fact that I don't know them yet is an absurdity and is example of how little cooperation that we're getting.
A video recorded by the news movement shows Pretti yelling at ICE officers and kicking in the taillight of one of their cars as they drove away 11 days before his shooting on January 13th. The officers stopped and tackled Pretti to the ground. In that same CNN town hall, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey says actions 11 days prior have nothing to do with what occurred the day Pretti was killed.
I actually haven't yet seen the video, but are we actually making the argument that Alex Pretti should be killed for something that happened like 11 days prior to the shooting itself? No, I think we should be talking about the circumstances that actually led to the killing and what took place.
Meanwhile, ICE agents on Tuesday morning tried to enter the consulate of Ecuador in Minneapolis. They were denied entry by employees at the consulate. In response, Ecuador's foreign ministry has lodged a formal diplomatic protest with the U.S. Protesters continue to clash with federal immigration agents in that city, as well as in other cities like New York.
I'm being arrested because Hilton is housing ICE.
Where dozens were arrested on Tuesday night for storming a hotel where ICE agents were staying. The National Rifle Association has been speaking out against Trump administration claims that Pretti shouldn't have legally been carrying a firearm, saying on social media, quote, "The NRA unequivocally believes that all law-abiding citizens have a right to keep and bear arms anywhere they have a legal right to be." Attorney General Pam Bondi announced on X 16 Minnesota rioters were arrested for allegedly assaulting federal law enforcement. She says more arrests are to come. John Stolnis, Washington.
It's looking more and more like another government shutdown will happen as the Senate grapples with funding for the Department of Homeland Security, and Democrats are demanding some reforms following the incidents involving ICE in Minneapolis. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports on the status of budget negotiations.
They have told us not to believe what we see with our own eyes. They blamed Alex Pretti because he was in lawful possession of a firearm. They have tried to block the investigations into what happened.
We don't have a lot of tools of leverage, but funding in Congress is one of them.
That's up to Majority Leader Thune, whether or not he will work with us to separate out the Homeland Security bill, negotiate some new amendments to that would prevent the sort of cold-blooded murder of Alex Pretti that happened on Saturday.
A partial government shutdown seems more likely at the end of the week. Following the deaths of two people at the hands of federal agents in Minneapolis, Democrats want major changes to ICE.
We want to end roving patrols. We need to tighten the rules governing the use of warrants.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer wants accountability.
Federal agents should be held to the same use of force policies that apply to state and local law enforcement and be held accountable.
A third demand?
We want masks off, body cameras on.
Republicans will need Democratic votes to keep the government open when funding runs out at midnight Friday. Texas Republican John Cornyn says they can have conversations about what additional oversight is required, what additional laws should be considered, but not at the expense of shutting down the government. Ed Donahue, Washington.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. And now, the more you buy, the more you save on beds, bases, and more. Limited time, only at Sleep Number or sleepnumber.com. When we return on America in the Morning, Ilhan Omar sprayed. FBI investigates after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Another Arctic blast today extending into Florida. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A disturbance generally stationary over parts of the high plains and into the nation's center will be the focus for some mainly light to moderate steady snow from eastern Montana towards southwestern North Dakota, much of South Dakota, and into central Nebraska today. It's not a major storm by any means, and to the south and east from there, some flurries may fly instead from southeastern Nebraska into northern and eastern Missouri, even into far southern Illinois by the end of the day today. Otherwise, cold air remains in place, especially toward the Canadian border with North Dakota and Minnesota, where some highs may struggle to rise above even just zero today. To the east of that zone, more limited coverage of lake-effect snow than in recent days continues once again for the northern and eastern upper peninsula of Michigan and very much favoring western portions of lower Michigan. Much of the Ohio Valley looks to have a dry Thursday in store, but to the east of there, flurries and snow showers develop from the high ground of West Virginia northward into much of Pennsylvania, all but eastern New York, and even into some parts of northwestern New Jersey, with areas closer to the New England and mid-Atlantic coast staying dry. The cold air remains locked in over the southeast for the most part, with highs again 15 to 30 degrees below historical averages for many, but those temperatures start to moderate on the western edge of that region, and more of Texas and Oklahoma should experience temperatures away from that deep chill, getting into more of the 50s and maybe perhaps even some 60s. For the southwest and west coast, many places will be dry today, but rain and high elevation snow do continue from northern and western Oregon into much of Washington today. In Omaha, today looks cloudy and colder with some snowflakes in the air, the high just 24. For Jacksonville, Florida, expect sunshine and a high of 57. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The FBI is taking the lead in the investigation after a man was arrested for spraying a liquid on Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar during a Minneapolis town hall. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
A man is under arrest after Democratic U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar was sprayed with an unknown substance during a town hall in Minneapolis Tuesday. The spraying happened as Omar called for the abolishment of ICE.
And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
Police say the man sprayed Omar with a syringe. He was tackled to the ground, and Omar said she would continue with the town hall and would not be intimidated.
Everybody settle down. I'm going to finish my remarks. It is important for me to continue.
Police identify the man as 55-year-old Anthony Kazmierzak. I'm Donna Warder.
President Trump has a stern warning for Iran as a massive military fleet has sailed into the Indian Ocean. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
President Trump is urging Iran to negotiate on nuclear weapons or face the force of a massive armada of American ships.
You know, we have a lot of ships going that direction, just in case. We have a big flotilla going in that direction. And we're we'll see what happens.
More than 6,000 people were killed in anti-government demonstrations across the country, including the capital of Tehran. And President Trump is insisting that time is running out for Iran to make a deal.
Make what we did to your Iran nuclear look like peanuts. But we have an armada. We have a massive fleet heading in that direction, and maybe we won't have to use it. We'll see.
The fleet's led by the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, and according to the president, the fleet's larger than the one that he sent to Venezuela to stop sanctioned oil tankers from leaving the Caribbean. The Lincoln and the rest of the fleet reportedly arrived in the Middle East on Monday. I'm Clayton Neville.
Large corporations in the state of Minnesota speak out against immigration violence when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Thursday business is in on America in the Morning. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after the Fed held interest rates steady and markets closed modestly mixed. The S&P 500 index topped 7,000 for the first time yesterday before pulling back to finish down 0.5 point. Many investors think it's only a matter of time before that S&P gets back up above 7,000. It's 22 points away. Here's CNBC's Mike Santoli saying the big tech stocks are pushing it up.
The 7,000 tag, it comes 3 months to the day after we first got above 6,900 intraday. So that final 100 points has been just this sort of churning sideways thing. And what did it take? You get the biggest guys on the field for the tush push. And that's literally what happened, because until the Mag 7 re-engaged, you couldn't quite get the oomph behind it.
The Federal Reserve stayed on hold with interest rates, leaving them right where they are. That was expected. Here's Fed Chair Jay Powell on inflation, saying once the tariff price increases happen, they really should be done.
We do think tariffs are likely to move through and be a one-time price increase. So the expectation is that we will see the effects of tariffs flowing through goods prices, peaking and then starting to come down, assuming there are no new major tariff increases that are begun.
Facebook parent Meta reported better than expected quarterly results after the closing bell last night. Watch those shares. They dipped in after-hours trading. Also dipping in after-hours trading last night, Microsoft shares, even with better than expected quarterly results. Tesla out with better than expected results. Its shares were flat after hours last night. Gold had its 9th record high of the year yesterday. Oil prices pushed higher yesterday after President Trump said an armada is heading to Iran. A CNBC flash poll is out after 60 CEOs from Minnesota's biggest corporations, including 3M, Target, Best Buy, Cargill, United Health, and many more, signed a letter to the White House speaking out against immigration violence in their state.
In a poll of C-suite executives, we heard from 34 firms, and one leader said their organization had spoken out publicly about the situation in Minneapolis. Here's how the other 33 leaders responded when asked why their organization has not publicly addressed the situation. 3% of the leaders are not opposed to ICE's conduct in Minnesota. 9% are still contemplating. 18% are worried about backlash from the Trump administration. And 1/3 responded that it is not relevant to their business.
That's CNBC's Sharon Epperson. On today's watch list, we get earnings from a biggie, Apple, and we find out how many people applied for unemployment benefits last week. Netflix releases the first half of season 4 of its hit Bridgerton.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, FBI investigates Georgia election office after these messages. In New York, prosecutors are seeking a July trial in Luigi Mangioni's state murder case, with his federal trial slated for fall. Correspondent Julie Walker is following proceedings.
Manhattan prosecutors are urging a judge to set a July 1st trial date in Luigi Mangioni's state murder case in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. That's 2 months before the slated start of jury selection in his federal death penalty case. In a letter Wednesday, an assistant district attorney argued that the state's interests would be unfairly prejudiced by an unnecessary delay until after the federal trial. The Manhattan DA's office raised the scheduling issue days after a U.S. district judge said jury selection in the federal case will begin on September 8th, with the rest happening either in October or January, depending on whether the judge allows prosecutors to seek the death penalty. Julie Walker, New York.
The FBI opens an investigation into a Georgia election office regarding the 2020 presidential election. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
FBI agents are executing a search warrant at the Fulton County Elections Office near Atlanta. An agency spokesperson says the search is taking place at the county's main election office in Union City, just south of Atlanta. The search comes as the FBI, under the leadership of Director Kash Patel, has moved quickly to pursue the political grievances of President Donald Trump. That includes by working with the Justice Department to investigate multiple perceived adversaries of the Republican commander-in-chief. Trump has long insisted that the 2020 election was stolen, even though judges across the country and his own attorney general said they found no evidence of widespread fault that tipped the contest in Democrat Joe Biden's favor. He's long made Georgia, one of the battleground states he lost in 2020, a central target for his complaints. I'm Haya Panjwani.
America in the Morning for Thursday, January 29th, 2026 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
The Federal Reserve has paused its interest rate cuts. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Secretary of State Rubio testifying in Washington regarding the takeover of Venezuela. I'm Bob Brown. That story ahead.
President Trump, rapper Nicki Minaj, and others touting Trump savings accounts for kids. I'm Clayton Neville.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is facing rising calls for her firing or impeachment. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Amazon's cutting more jobs, but is AI to blame? I'm the new old tech guy, Chuck Palm.
There's a final date set for The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. Here's the national forecast on America in the Morning. To find out what today brings, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Today does bring another round of rain to parts of the west, specifically the northwest today, as the returning Pacific moisture that helped to spark precipitation remains in place, while a warm front that stays largely offshore brings some more energy to create steady rain. That steadiest rain should set up from far northwestern Oregon to western Washington, with more intermittent showers not only a bit farther to the south and east into Oregon, but also over southeastern Washington. Some snow is more likely toward the Washington Cascades, with snow showers from northeastern Washington into northern Idaho and toward the Montana border. Otherwise, the area of high pressure that gave way to allow that rain and snow into the Pacific Northwest sits farther to the east today, promoting sunshine for much of California and into parts of the southwest and interior west. Dry conditions are also in store for the south, helping with recovery and cleanup efforts after last week's potent winter storm. That will be also assisted by a consistent upward trend in temperatures that's helped much of Texas start to thaw out in recent days. However, to the north of there, some steady snow is again expected from eastern Montana into the Dakotas and central Nebraska, but flurries extend south and east from there into southern Illinois. Less expansive coverage of lake-effect snow showers continues yet again for areas of northern and western Michigan, much closer to the lakes today than perhaps in recent days, but there may be more flurries and snow showers around from the West Virginia Appalachians northward into all but southeastern Pennsylvania, also reaching northwestern New Jersey and much of central and western New York. There may even be some snow squalls around today, especially around the Syracuse area of New York State, but not far to the north and south of that general area as well. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The Federal Reserve says it's keeping its benchmark interest rate as is after 3 cuts last year and despite objections from President Trump. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
The Federal Reserve has paused its interest rate cuts after lowering its benchmark rate 3 times last year.
While job gains have remained low, the unemployment rate has shown some signs of stabilization, and inflation remains somewhat elevated. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy rate unchanged.
Chair Jerome Powell notes an upgrade in economic growth as the job market shows signs of stabilizing.
The upside risks to inflation and the downside risks to employment have diminished, but they still exist, so there's still some tension between the mandates. Are they fully in balance? Hard to say. And, we think our policy is in a good place.
A key issue is President Trump's tariffs. Powell says the impacts should peak and come down this year.
The expectation is that we will see the effects of tariffs flowing through goods prices, peaking, and then starting to come down, assuming there are no new major tariff increases that are begun. And that's what we expect to see over the course of this year.
For now, Powell says the Fed's policy is in a good place and the key rate will not change, despite the president's unprecedented pressure for sharp drops. Powell says he remains strongly committed to the Fed's independence.
You're confident it can maintain that independence at this point?
Yes. I'm strongly committed to that, and so are my colleagues.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio testified Wednesday before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, discussing a number of topics, including the administration's actions involving Venezuela. Bob Brown reports that Rubio was also questioned on President Trump's plans for Greenland, Cuba, and Iran.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul exchanging remarks as the committee listened to Rubio explain the invasion of Venezuela back on January 3rd, resulting in the physical removal of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, who were transported to the U.S. and are now facing drug trafficking charges.
But I think we're in violation of both the spirit and the law of the Constitution by bombing a capital, blockading a country, and removing elected officials, and we certainly wouldn't tolerate it, nor would I if someone did it to us.
But we didn't remove an elected official. We removed someone who was not elected, and it was actually an indicted drug trafficker in the United States.
The U.S. is now controlling Venezuela's oil industry in the interim, with the goal for Venezuela to sell oil on the open market, with the revenue going back into the country. Senator Jeannie Shaheen.
So it's been reported that the oil sold for $500 million, that $300 million went to Venezuelan government. What happened to the other $200 million?
It's still sitting in the account, is my understanding at this time.
Rubio says going forward, it's not the administration's intention to undertake military operations in Venezuela.
Everything is moving in a very different trajectory right now. On the other hand, if we tell them we don't want to see drones from Iran, as an example, pointed at the United States or threatening our forces or our presence in the region or our allies' presence in the region, and they refuse to comply with that, the president does reserve the option in self-defense to eliminate that threat.
As far as President Trump's desire to control Greenland,
the president's interest on Greenland has been clear. It's a national security interest. It's a long-standing interest that predate this administration. It's one that our allies acknowledge is real.
Officials in Denmark and Greenland say the nation is not for sale. I'm Bob Brown.
The administration is hyping the launch of Trump accounts for kids. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports on the plan and a famous rapper who's backing it.
Trump accounts are for parents and guardians who want to save money for their kids' educations or for their kids to start a business or make a down payment on a home after they turn 18 years old.
Families who have children between January 1st, 2025 and December 31, 2028, you've got $1,000 coming from the government that's going to be invested into an index fund.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told CBS's Saturday Morning that anyone with a kid 18 or younger who's a U.S. citizen with a Social Security number can open a Trump account. He also said that employers can contribute up to $2,500 per year for the child of an employee or of an employee's dependent. Big corporations and private donors jumping on with matches.
We got some of America's great philanthropists like Michael and Susan Dell, $6.25 billion.
Wednesday in Washington, rapper Nicki Minaj pledged to contribute hundreds of thousands of dollars to the accounts.
I am probably the president's #1 fan. and that's not going to change.
The program would give eligible newborns an investment account with $1,000 in seed money.
Trump accounts will help bring the hope and prosperity to every community that every community wants to see. And it'll bring back the American dream.
President Trump says the accounts could potentially grow to as much as $50,000 by the time the recipient turns 18.
And with every modest contribution, Trump accounts should reach at least $50,000 in value by the time the child turns 18, and could be very substantially more than that.
Critics of the Trump accounts argue the money won't help kids much in their early years and could widen inequalities. J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo all committing to match the U.S. government's one-time $1,000 contribution to children's retirement savings accounts for eligible employees. I'm Clayton Neville.
Calls for the Homeland Security Secretary to step down. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. There were protests in Texas at an ICE facility south of San Antonio where a 5-year-old is being detained, which led to several people being arrested in clashes with federal agents. At another detention center, this one on the grounds of Fort Bliss outside El Paso, questions are being raised after a Cuban migrant was found dead. Lisa Dwyer reports on 911 calls that were made and what the autopsy report showed in the death of the ICE detainee.
A 911 call shows that a Nicaraguan man who died at a Texas detention camp days after he was detained by immigration authorities in Minneapolis is suspected of dying by suicide. A medical official at Camp East Montana in El Paso, Texas, told a 911 dispatcher that guards found 36-year-old Victor Manuel Diaz in his room.
They were doing rounds and they just found him with I guess his pants tied up to his neck, I believe.
A separate emergency medical report says Diaz was suspected of hanging himself with a bedsheet. Federal authorities say the death remains under investigation, and they have not released a cause. The family remains suspicious of the claim that he committed suicide, saying he was not depressed and would have been reunited with his mother, 2 sons, and siblings in Nicaragua if he had been deported. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
There are bipartisan calls for President Trump to remove Kristi Noem as Homeland Security Secretary. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is facing rising calls for her firing or impeachment after the shooting deaths in Minneapolis of 2 people who protested deportation policy. President Trump was asked about it.
Is Kristi Noem going to step down?
No. Noem is facing criticism from Democrats and Republicans. North Carolina Republican Senator Thom Tillis was asked what it would mean if Noem continues as Homeland Security Secretary.
That we're allowing incompetent people in very prominent roles in the cabinet.
Tillis called Noem a complete failure on disaster response.
She clearly doesn't know how to manage. She's never managed a large organization, and she's failing at every possible measure of the job.
Noem's remarks after the shooting deaths of Alex Pretti and Renee Good in Minneapolis, suggesting Pretti attacked officers and portrayed the events leading up to Good's shooting.
This was an act of domestic terrorism.
Have been seen as doing irreparable damage. Ed Donahue, Washington.
It'll soon be 4 years since Russia amassed an army to invade Ukraine, and a new report shows staggering casualty figures on both sides in numbers not seen since World War II. Correspondent Lawrence Brooks reports.
A new report warns that the number of soldiers killed, injured, or missing on both sides of Russia's war in Ukraine could hit 2 million by the spring. It says Russia would suffer the largest number of troop deaths recorded for any major power in any conflict since World War II. Tuesday's report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies came less than a month before the 4th anniversary of Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The report said Russia suffered 1.2 million casualties between February 2022 and December 2025. It estimated that Ukraine, with its smaller army and population had suffered between 500,000 and 600,000 of their own. The Kremlin said the research could not be considered reliable information and that only Russia's Ministry of Defense was authorized to provide information on military losses. There was no immediate comment from the Ukrainian government. I'm Lawrence Brooks.
As many as 16,000 pink slips are going to be handed out to middle managers at Amazon. The new old tech guy, Chuck Palm, has the story.
Amazon just announced another significant round of corporate job cuts, about 16,000 positions worldwide. In addition to the roughly 14,000 jobs trimmed back in October, pushing the total to over 30,000 in this latest efficiency drive. Senior Vice President Beth Galletti shared the details in a company blog post, explaining that the changes are aiming to reduce layers, increase ownership, and remove bureaucracy. That's corporate speak for saving money. The cuts are targeting corporate roles across the organization, not the frontline warehouse or delivery teams that form the bulk of Amazon's more than 1.5 million employees. The company emphasized they're still actively hiring in priority strategic areas, even while scaling back elsewhere. This strategy fits squarely into CEO Andy Jassy's ongoing push for a leaner, more agile Amazon. These layoffs aren't framed as a direct one-for-one replacement of people with AI right now, but rather part of a broader restructuring. He's been clear for some time that generative AI will drive efficiency gains and ultimately reduce corporate headcount over the coming years. Visit thenewoldtechguy.com for our weekly wrap-up podcast. I'm Chuck Palm.
Here's sports on America in the Morning with our John Stolnis.
The Super Bowl participants haven't even held their first practice yet, so Patriots fans probably shouldn't feel too concerned that star quarterback Drake May would not have been a full participant at practice Wednesday had there been one. League rules stipulate teams must put out an injury report beginning every Wednesday, even if they don't have practice that day. May says after the AFC Championship game he has some bumps and bruises, but nothing that should jeopardize his ability to play in Super Bowl 60 coming up in a little less than 2 weeks. The Cleveland Browns have a new head coach. Former longtime Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken will take the reins, replacing Kevin Stefanski, who was fired after 6 seasons in Cleveland. That means New York Giants coach John Harbaugh will now have to look for a new offensive coordinator. The NBA trade deadline is coming up on February 5th, and it appears a superstar is looking to move to a new home. Two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo has told the Milwaukee Bucks he'd like to be dealt to a contender, and indications are the team is already fielding several serious offers. Antetokounmpo has been in Milwaukee for 12 years, and with an 18-27 record, sitting in 12th place in the Eastern Conference, it looks like his run in Milwaukee is nearing an end. And there was a little bit of nostalgia last night in Cleveland as LeBron James returned to the place he spent 11 seasons in 2 separate stints, winning a title with the Cavaliers in 2016. Now with the Lakers, LeBron scored 11 points for Los Angeles as the Cavaliers won in a blowout 129-99. I'm John Stolnis.
When we return on America in the Morning, Arctic blast stranded on an icy roadway. After these messages. The Arctic blast that has hit half the nation left the South under snow and ice in ways they've never expected. Tens of thousands in Tennessee and Louisiana are still without power, and for some people in Mississippi, they found themselves trapped in their cars on a frozen interstate highway. Correspondent Julie Walker reports icy highways left many drivers stranded.
Mississippi officials say they're sending 135 snowplows to clear Interstates 55 and 22, where frozen conditions are causing massive traffic jams. They're also rushing supplies to drivers stuck on icy stretches and diverting traffic, says MDOT Commissioner Sean Tyndall.
We are doing this so that MDOT can help clear the roads, and we're working with our partners at the National Guard and MEMA trying to get these roads where they're passable. Please heed these warnings. Stay off Interstates 55 and 22 North. Stay safe in Mississippi.
Many states still grappling with frigid weather following last weekend's storm. National Weather Service meteorologist Mark Miller says more bad weather is forecast.
So this is, some serious cold for sure. Very cold temperatures that we're looking at, lows that are certainly going to be into the teens, single digits. And as, farther north you go, like into the upper Midwest, to the northern plains, you're looking at temperatures well below zero. Even as far south as, the Gulf Coast and to the southeast, lows are going to be into the teens and single digits as well. And wind chill is going to make it feel even colder.
At least 50 people have died in states afflicted by the dangerous cold. I'm Julie Walker.
Stephen Colbert is looking ahead to his final episode for his late-night talk show. Entertainment reporter Kevin Carr has details.
Stephen Colbert has announced the date of the final episode of The Late Show. He talked about it on NBC's Late Night with Seth Meyers, which taped earlier in the week but aired on Tuesday night.
Do you have more perspective, different perspective on it now? Is it sort of
Well, it feels real now.
Yeah.
It did not feel, I know it was real, but now there's 4 months left, and the shows are fun to do, but what I really love is the people I do it with.
Yeah. The Late Show began in 1993 when David Letterman left NBC following him not being given the host of The Tonight Show. The 30-year-old talk show was canceled completely by CBS last summer. Colbert made the final date known exclusively on Meyers' talk show.
Our final show will be May 21st, 2026. Mark your calendars.
Colbert made a name for himself on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart as a larger-than-life character. He also hosted his own satirical political show, The Colbert Report, on Comedy Central from 2005 to 2014, which he left to host The Late Show. He has not made any formal announcements as to what he will be doing next. Meyers asked him about several rumors, including running for political office, as well as this idea.
Starting a show with the following people: Rachel Maddow, Tom Hanks, Jasmine Crockett, Simon Cowell. All five of you?
All five of them. Yeah.
The new A-team. You guys are going to be the new A-team.
Colbert neither confirmed nor denied any of the rumors. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Thursday, January 29th, 2026 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.